Good evening, everybody. Dr. Raghuramlu, former Director of Research, Coffee Board of India, distinguished fellow members on today's panel, officers of the Coffee Board, ladies and gentlemen. The prospect of the Indian coffee sector holds significant potential driven by the increasing global demand, product diversification, and sustainable practices. From the perspective of coffee growers, several key factors are expected to influence growth in production. But many of these defining factors are today out of control of the Indian coffee grower. Indian coffee began its hallowed journey with just 7 beans that were brought into India by the Sufi saint Baba Budan in the 17th century, and is today becoming increasingly popular internationally, with a whole host of nations all over the globe becoming increasingly aware of the superb coffees being produced in India, both in the Arabica as well as the Robusta species. With the growing global demand for coffee the world over, Indian coffee today stands at the very cusp of becoming an integral part of the niche specialty coffee segment, which is being brought out by coffee connoisseurs and the younger generation, today popularly known as the Gen X and the Gen Z. Indian coffee production has seen remarkable growth over the decades, from a mere 19,000 metric tons in the year 1950 to 51 to an impressive 363,000 metric tons in 24-25. This year, the estimate is supposed to cross 4 lakh metric tons. This has been primarily due to the programs of the Coffee Board of India and the efforts of innumerable pioneering coffee growers over the last 100 years. The improved cultivation practices by introducing high-yielding varieties and enhanced pest and disease management have contributed to the increase. Between 1990 and 2000, coffee production in India almost doubled, rising from 1,70,000 tons to 3,63,000 tons, showcasing the post-liberalization growth trajectory. However, productivity per hectare from a modest 2004 kgs per hectare in 50-51 has grown to 813, a testament to the adoption of advanced farming techniques and efficient use of resources under the board's guidance. However, from a relative perspective, the Indian productivity lags behind the levels of 813 kgs per hectare as compared to Vietnam, which is at about 2,970 kgs per hectare, and Brazil, which is at 1,600 kgs per hectare. It should be noted that Indian coffee is grown under shade, the conditions which are totally different to the countries like Vietnam, Brazil, and a few other. As such, there are limitations for increasing the productivity in coffee, while there is a need that we derive benefits of the sustainability produced in Indian coffee. However, the new obstacles being posed by the regulatory mechanisms like the EUDR will in many ways curtail the expansion of cultivation of coffee in new non-traditional areas of the country. Improving the yield levels is quintessential for being globally competitive today. This needs to be addressed by providing positive and sustained research and development. The development of good seed material and high-yielding clones, climate-resilient varieties which are resistant to pests and diseases, droughts, and the varieties that have a positive attribute in the cup is a matter of great urgency and importance. Very recently, the Western African nation of Sierra Leone, scientists rediscovered a wild coffee species called coffee stenophylla, a plant not seen in the wild for decades. and which offers a more heat-tolerant and favorable alternative to Arabica and Robusta coffees. The discovery holds promise for the coffee industry, as this forgotten bean has a complex, naturally sweet flavor comparable to Arabica and a greater tolerance to higher temperatures, what with the ever-changing rainfall and climate patterns the world over. This is very crucial for the future of coffee cultivation amidst all these weather-related issues. Therefore, more sustained, dedicated, and proactive R&D that delivers tangible results is necessary to deliver cutting-edge technologies, advancements in production, productivity, and agronomical practices, and post-harvest technology. A noticeable trend in coffee production is the structural shift in Indian coffee production from Arabica to Robusta over the years. The area under Arabica cultivation declined from around 73% in 50-51 to 52% in 22-23, while the production has declined from 82 in the corresponding year to 30%. The rising cost of cultivation of Arabica due to the lack of any major scientific breakthrough in the control of the white stem borer has been the main reason for this. The rapid pace at which Arabica farms are being converted to Robusta will continue unless some drastic and decisive intervention is achieved in R&D. This is important since the traditional Arabica coffee cultivation practices in India have ensured the protection of biodiversity and ecosystems in the ecologically sensitive western and eastern Ghats of India. However, this aspect of our sustainably grown coffee has not been fully encashed by the Indian coffee industry, and this needs to change, and change very quickly. Emphasis on the organic cultivation, water conservation, and eco-friendly methods enhance marketability and access to markets. Use of modern farming techniques, data-driven management, and mechanization can improve yields and quality. Mechanization of estate operations was an important scheme introduced in the 12th plans, which extended financial incentives to growers towards mechanization of farms, operations to increase the labor efficiency, and to facilitate time culture operations, thereby contributing to overall farm productivity and sustainability of coffee farming. However, in the present scheme guidelines, the applicability of the scheme is restricted to growers up to 25 hectares. Many of our coffee plantations today require large-scale replanting, but faced with the restrictions posed by the distinctions made on the basis of area and the type of ownership, replanting of areas with the new high-yielding varieties has not achieved the desired projected goals. Considering the fact that the acreage on the larger growers in the corporate segment comprises over 90% of the cultivated area under coffee, and given the labor shortages situation in the traditional coffee growing, there is a dire need to enlarge the scope of coverage without any distinctions based on size and holding. More government-to-government interactions are required to solve stumbling blocks, if any, in free trade and ensure swift transactions which would help in diversifying the markets. A platform may be envisaged with primary buying countries to regularly intervene and solve the issues and enhance the trade with these countries. More bilateral discussions, brand building, promotions, participating in international trade exhibitions, delegation visits, and reverse reciprocal delegation visits are important factors to diversify the export markets and to look for new geographies. It is one thing to set a target of 7 lakh metric tons and another to achieve it, sustain and produce high quality coffee. Given the advancements in technology and artificial intelligence, the Coffee Board needs to dwell very deeply into this aspect and ensure how some of these technologies can be adapted in the farms of India. Many growers today are of the opinion that it's not the cultural practices and the post-harvest processes which are going to become very challenging as we move forward, but the very harvesting of our coffees on time to maintain their superiority in the cup is what will become one of the biggest challenges in the coming years. Despite the challenges of the past experience posed to the industry, mechanized harvesting technology is a dire and urgent need of the hour. The issues posed by terrain on which coffee is grown and cultivated in India should not be the determining factor in adapting new harvesting technologies, especially considering the advancements in technology and AI today. Therefore, as can be seen, it becomes a very vicious circle where everything that I have said earlier is interdependent on the other. To conclude, to achieve the 7 lakh tons of the production target, the Indian coffee plantation industry requires a liberal infusion of technology at the farm level, a sustained and dedicated research and development program by the Coffee Board of India, and a very holistic approach in determining the necessary policies and schemes which will greatly contribute to the increase in coffee production by the Government of India. Thank you.